planet is in danger, and humans have ceased their research in science and technology. Instead, they have fully devoted themselves to agriculture in an attempt to solve the global hunger crisis. Cooper, a former NASA pilot, now works as a farmer. He has 2 children, Tom and the intelligent Murph. Murph tells Cooper about a ghost that knocks books off her shelf, to which he replies that ghosts don't exist and urges her to prove her theory. One day, a sandstorm leaves a pattern of dust in Murph's room. She thinks it's the work of the ghost. Cooper is skeptical but discovers that the pattern represents coordinates in binary code, and together they head to the location. They arrive at a secret facility where they meet Professor Brand and his daughter Amelia, who reveal that they are part of NASA. The professor explains that they secretly restarted the organization because the public would reject funding space exploration during times of food scarcity. He reveals that there is no hope for Earth. Soon, no crops will grow, the air is polluted, and Murph's generation will likely be the last on Earth. NASA's goal is not to save the planet, but to abandon it. Standing in front of the last module of the Endurance spaceship, Brand mentions that they are preparing for their final mission, having previously launched missions called Lazarus to find a new home. However, he cannot provide more details until Cooper agrees to be the pilot, emphasizing that he is the best they've had and that something special brought him here, meaning they chose him. Cooper asks who they are, but Brand remains silent. Cooper does not want to leave his children, but Brand suggests going into space to save them. Cooper decides to listen more and is told that they have discovered a wormhole near Saturn, which connects to another galaxy and leads to 12 potentially habitable planets. Dr. Amelia suggests that benevolent beings, the same ones who might have brought Cooper here, created this wormhole to aid them, and Professor Brand adds that they sent astronauts to these planets 10 years ago on the Lazarus missions to assess their habitability. If they found potential, they would send a signal and wait for rescue. Otherwise, they would die there. They reveal to Cooper that 3 of these planets might be suitable for relocating humanity. Then, the professor details 2 plans. Plan A involves assessing which of the 3 planets is most suitable for relocation and then moving humanity there using an equation that Brand hopes to solve. Plan B consists of sending thousands of fertilized eggs to start a colony on the new planet, abandoning everyone on Earth. Cooper does not want to leave his children and hesitates since Brand has not yet completed his equation, but at the professor's request for trust, he agrees to pilot the mission for the sake of humanity and primarily for his children. However, Murph is very upset. When they return home, she locks herself in her room. Cooper tries to calm her down. He tells her that when you're a parent, you only remain in the memories of your children, like a ghost of their future. Murph tries to make him change his mind by telling him that the message the ghost was sending with the books that fell was stay. But Cooper, ignoring it, hugs her as if it were the last time and gives her a watch, explaining that time and space move slower and they might be the same age when he returns. Murph throws the watch. Cooper assures her that he will always love her and promises to return. The spacecraft launches and Cooper, Dr. Amelia, and the crew head toward the Endurance station. This station is circular and divided into 12 compartments, reminiscent of the hours on a clock face. This design introduces the theme of time, which will be central to the film's plot and will deeply influence the thoughts I will share. They dock without any issues. Professor Brand speaks to them and informs them that their route looks good. They have calculated that it will take 2 years to reach Saturn. Before saying goodbye, he recites a few lines from Dylan Thomas's poem, "Do not go gentle into that good night." Cooper talks with Tom, but Murph remains upset and refuses to speak with him. They arrive at Saturn and enter the wormhole. As they travel through it, Amelia perceives a humanoid arm distorting space and time, reaching out to it. Right after, they exit the wormhole and arrive in another galaxy. Their first stop is Miller's planet, named after the astronauts sent there previously. However, they encounter a problem. The planet is so close to a black hole named Gargantua that 1 hour there equals 7 years on Earth, so they must be very efficient. Cooper, Amelia, Doyle, and the robot Case descend to the planet while Rom stays on the Endurance to study gravity by observing the wormhole, which could help Professor Brand with his equation. The robot Tars stays as well. On Miller's planet, they encounter an ocean and gigantic waves. They discover that one of these waves destroyed Miller's spacecraft. Suddenly, a massive wave approaches. Cooper orders Amelia to return to the ship, but she attempts to retrieve data from the destroyed spacecraft. The robot Case manages to save Amelia just before the wave hits them, but Doyle perishes. Cooper faces issues starting the ship due to the flooded engines and reproaches Amelia for the time lost, which cost them decades. Desperate while waiting for the engines to dry, Cooper wonders if they could enter a black hole to regain the lost years. Amelia clarifies that time is relative. It can stretch and compress, but it cannot be reversed, and only gravity can move across time dimensions. Cooper then suggests that perhaps the benevolent beings guiding them are communicating from the future using gravity. You might be wondering what this talk of dimensions is about and what Amelia means when she says that time can't be reversed. Let me explain. In our everyday life, we exist within 4 dimensions, 3 of space and 1 of time. The spatial dimensions allow us to move side to side, up and down, and forward and backward. The 4th dimension is time, which we experience as moments passing one after another. However, unlike space, where we can freely move in any direction, time restricts us to a single direction. We can only move from the past towards the future, never in reverse. Astronomer Arthur Eddington referred to this one-way characteristic characteristic of time as the arrow of time. This will help us better understand the benevolent beings and the concept of a fifth dimension in the movie. Imagine there is a dimension beyond the fourth dimension of time. If we could access this fifth dimension, theoretically we could move through time as easily as we walk forward or backward in space. We wouldn't be confined to moving just from the past to the future. The benevolent beings inhabit a five-dimensional reality, allowing them to move freely through time and communicate from the future. At that moment, another massive wave approaches, but they manage to start the engines in time and escape. Upon returning to the Endurance, they discover that Rom has aged 23 years and has unsuccessfully attempted to study the black hole. Cooper finds 23 years worth of messages from his family. His son Tom is now a father and husband, but has lost one of his children. In the last message, Tom says goodbye, resigned to the fact that Cooper will not return. Then a video from Murph appears. She decided to record it because Cooper had told her that when he returned, they could be the same age. Now, she is the age Cooper was when he left. Murph pleads for him to come back, and Cooper is devastated. Over the years, Murph has tried to help Professor Brand solve his equation, albeit unsuccessfully. An older Brand remarks that they have done something good for the world regardless of whether they solve the equation before he dies. Murph asks him not to be so morbid, but Brand clarifies that he does not fear death, but time. Following this, Murph continues to try to solve the equation but begins to suspect that something is not right. Einstein and his theory of relativity taught us that time does not pass the same for everyone. Instead, it depends on the gravity surrounding us. If we are near a place with strong gravity, like a black hole, time passes more slowly. That's why when Cooper and his team approached the black hole, the intense gravity caused time to pass differently for them compared to those on Earth. While they only experienced a few hours 23 years passed on Earth, to me the emotional heart of the film is the relativity of time, which delivers the profoundly heartbreaking scene of Cooper seeing that his children have suddenly grown up, missing out on significant moments in their lives. Although we do not experience the passage of time as intensely as Cooper, his experience deeply resonates with us because we all know the feeling of loss that time brings. Cooper's experience reminds us of a harsh and painful truth about our own experience of time, that we are prisoners to its unceasing flow. Professor Brand put it well: he did not fear death, but time. Death is unfelt because when it arrives, we are no longer here, but the passage of time and the losses it brings are experiences lived and deeply felt by everyone. We see how places change, how our children grow up in an instant, how we age, or how our parents approach the end of their lives. In some way, we are all battling against the current of time, that relentless force that marks our existence and against which we ultimately have no power. However, although we cannot stop time, perhaps we can transcend it in some way, not scientifically, but rather poetically. Later, we'll explore what the film proposes. The astronauts face a dilemma. Their journey has taken longer than expected, and they've run out of enough fuel to visit the two remaining planets. They must choose between heading to Man's planet, who led the Lazarus missions and continues to send messages, or Edmund's planet, which seems more promising but has stopped sending data. Amelia prefers going to Edmund's planet. Cooper doesn't understand why and suggests that Amelia is in love with Edmund. Amelia admits that her love influences her decision. Cooper reminds her that she is a scientist. Amelia responds that love is real, observable, and powerful and must mean something. Cooper concedes that love is socially useful, helping to form bonds and to have children. Amelia then questions the utility of loving people who have already died. She proposes that love might be evidence of something greater, something they yet do not understand. She uses her own situation as an example, traveling through the universe towards someone she hasn't seen in years and who might be dead. She argues that love is the only thing we are capable of perceiving that can transcend the dimensions of time and space. She suggests that perhaps they should trust in that even if they don't fully understand it yet. Cooper rejects the idea and decides to go to Man's planet. If the planet turns out to be unsuitable, Plan A would fail, and they will have to choose between returning home or going to Edmund's planet with Plan B. Annoyed, Amelia tells Cooper that he will have to choose between his children or the future of humanity, and hopes he can be as impartial as he has just demonstrated. They arrive at Man's planet, grazing an ice cloud as they land on a peak. They awaken Dr. Mann from a long sleep, and although the planet doesn't look promising, Dr. Mann assures them that the surface is better. At that moment, they receive a recording from Earth. It's Murph saying that Professor Brand has died and confessed before dying that he always lied. His equation would never work, and his plan was always to execute Plan B. Murph cries and wonders if Cooper knew, and simply left them to die there. Amelia is confused because her father dedicated his life to Plan A. Dr. Mann reveals that he knew the equation required entering a black hole and obtaining specific information, something something theoretically impossible. He explains that this is why they developed Plan B to save humanity, but Brand kept it secret, knowing how difficult it would be to convince people to cooperate in saving the species rather than just themselves or their children. Mann explains, we can care deeply and selflessly for people we know, but our empathy rarely extends beyond our line of sight. Cooper is upset and just wants to return to his children, so the new plan is for Cooper to help install the fertilized eggs on the planet's surface and then leave. Dr. Mann mentioned that we can care deeply for those we know, but that empathy rarely extends beyond our line of sight. This reminded me of moral philosopher Peter Singer and his concept of the moral circle. Humans possess a moral consciousness that allows us to see others as beings deserving of consideration, preventing us from harming them arbitrarily. Peter Singer referred to this group of beings as our moral circle. Traditionally, for most people, this circle primarily includes family, friends, and sometimes community members. However, Singer suggests that we should expand our moral circle beyond our immediate loved ones to include even animals in order to, in his view, make societal progress. In the film, this theme is clearly portrayed through two particular characters, which I will highlight at the appropriate time. On Earth, the situation is critical. Children suffer from lung problems, there's a shortage of food, and people struggle to survive. Murph reveals to her colleague Getty that Professor Brand only solved part of the problem, and the remaining solution lies within the black hole. Though doubtful that the answer is on Earth, she's determined not to give up. She remembers the ghost from her childhood seemed to want to communicate something important, so she believes that if there is any answer, it's in her bookshelf. On Planet Man, Rom tells Cooper that there is one last hope to save humanity: to pass through the Gargantua black hole on their return to Earth. He describes Gargantua as an ancient black hole where the gravitational force is so strong that it might allow something to survive if it crosses quickly. He suggests that the robot TARS collect the necessary information. Before departing, Dr. Mann takes Cooper to the planet's surface, but after a long, unsuccessful exploration, they stop. Mann confesses that he manipulated the data to make the planet seem habitable and to be rescued, deactivates Cooper's radio, and pushes him away, explaining that he needs the ship to complete the mission. Cooper and Mann fight, and Mann breaks Cooper's helmet, exposing him to the poisonous air and leaving him to his fate. As he walks away, Mann reminds Cooper of the poem Brand recited to them. This poem is repeated at various moments in the movie. At the end, I'll bring it back and talk about what it means, something that we can all apply in our lives. Cooper manages to crawl to a radio and call for help. Amelia rescues Cooper and they try to warn Rom, but just then, the camp explodes and Rom dies. Amelia and Cooper chase Dr. Mann, who has stolen one of the ships and is heading towards the Endurance. TARS disables the ship's automatic docking system. Mann fails to dock properly, and in attempting to force the entry, he triggers an explosion and dies. The Endurance is damaged, but skillfully, Cooper manages to dock his ship with the station. Only Cooper, Amelia, and the robot's Tarzan case remain. Cooper explains that they don't have enough life support to return to Earth, but they can reach Edmund's planet. He proposes the following: use the gravitational force of the black hole Gargantua to catapult them towards Edmund. Once they reach the necessary speed, they will use their two shuttles as boosters to escape the pull of the hull. When one shuttle is exhausted, the robot TARS will detach and be absorbed by the hull to reduce weight and facilitate the escape. It's their only chance to save humanity. They enter the hull. They activate the engines of the shuttles. This maneuver will cost them 51 years on Earth due to the gravity of Gargantua. Following Cooper's plan, they exhaust the first shuttle and detach TARS. But then, unexpectedly, Cooper orders Case to detach him. Amelia's confused. Cooper reminds her of Newton's third law: to get somewhere, we must leave something behind. He reveals that they actually did not have enough resources for both. Cooper detaches his shuttle in a sacrifice for humanity, ensuring Amelia has the chance to find a new home. Building on Singer's idea, Dr. Mann represents a contraction of the moral circle. When faced with danger and isolation, he chose to prioritize his own survival over the mission's objectives and the welfare of humanity. This contraction of the moral circle implies a regression for society, which in the film was represented by the extinction of humanity. On the other hand, we have Cooper, whose journey exemplifies an expansion of the moral circle. Initially, he accepted the mission solely to save his children, but as the story progressed, he expanded his concern to encompass all of humanity. This expansion of his moral circle is crucial in saving humanity. With this, the movie invites us to think about the need to expand our moral circle, especially when facing global challenges such as climate change. If we fail to consider future generations or people outside our immediate circle, we might make decisions that compromise the future for everyone. Instead of progressing, we could regress, or even worse, perish. Cooper is absorbed by Gargantua. During his journey, he describes what he observes and communicates it to TARS, hoping the information will be useful for the equation. He sees flashing lights amidst the darkness. Then he loses control of his spacecraft, which begins to disintegrate. It seems to be the end for Cooper. He ejects and is left floating in space. But unexpectedly, he is transported to a strange room called the Tesseract. This place appears infinite, and each wall is like a window showing different moments in time in his daughter Murph's room. From there, Cooper can see his own farewell on the day he left. Regretful, Cooper tries to prevent his past self from leaving. Desperately, he attempts to send the message "stay" by moving books in Morse code, but he fails to change anything. It turns out he was the ghost. Amelia mentioned that love is one of the few things we can perceive that transcends the dimensions of time and space, using as an example the unchanging love we feel for those who have passed away. When we lose a loved one, we allow a trail of shared memories to etch their essence into our memory. These memories keep their presence alive and allow them to continue having a profound impact on our lives. Cooper's interaction with Murph through the Tesseract can be seen as a metaphor for how our relationships with the absent evolve. In a way, they transform into almost ghostly presences within us, guiding and accompanying us. Our minds become a sacred space where we relive memories and keep the essences of those who are no longer with us alive. The Tesseract, showing moments of Cooper and Murph over time, represents this mental space. Moreover, Cooper communicates with Murph through emotionally charged moments. Just as we continue to converse internally with our deceased loved ones, we laugh, cry, and reflect together in an internal dialogue that shows love never really leaves us, but transforms and endures beyond the barriers of time and space. Suddenly, Tars contacts Cooper via radio. He has survived thanks to the benevolent beings. Tars explains that these beings created the Tesseract to allow him to access their five-dimensional reality in a way he could understand. In this place, time can be seen and manipulated as if it were a physical dimension. It can be used to send messages across time by moving things with gravity. Tars reports that he obtained information from the black hole. Cooper suggests he could send it to his daughter. Tars hesitates because the data are complex for a child. Cooper insists they must try, or everyone on Earth will die. Tars reminds him that the benevolent beings didn't bring them there to change the past. Then Cooper realizes that the messages weren't sent by those beings. He had brought himself there. Cooper asks Tars for NASA's coordinates in binary and marks them on the ground using the sand during that sandstorm. Cooper had thought he was the chosen one to save the world, but now he realizes that it's actually Murph who is the chosen one. The benevolent beings cannot act directly because they have unlimited access to time and space, but they are not bound to anything. They cannot position themselves in a specific moment or communicate. Hence, Cooper deduces that he is there to send a message to Murph, and the way to do it is through love. As Amelia mentioned, love is the key. Cooper asks Tars to translate the black hole information into Morse code and records the data on the watch he gave to Murph in their emotional farewell, hoping that the love she feels for him will make her look for the watch again. Now we understand the special and poetic way we can transcend the barriers of time through the power of love. Love gives us the ability to create memories that remain vivid in our memory, allowing us, even if briefly, to reverse the arrow of time and re-experience those meaningful moments. It is the depth of a loving connection at a specific instant that facilitates this journey through time. In those moments, it seems that time yields to the strength of affection. Think of the day your daughter was born, the sound of her first cry, the softness of her skin, and how quickly you fell in love with her. Her first steps, her first word, or remember the moment you met the love of your life, what they looked like, how they made you feel, your first kiss. These may be just memories, but remembering something with such strange precision, so vividly that you can almost feel yourself there again, is how we break free from the tyranny of linear time and can, in a very real and human way, transcend time. Murph returns to her room convinced that the solution lies there, yet she cannot decipher it. Suddenly, she remembers the watch her father gave her, which she had previously dismissed. Observing how the second hand moves, she realizes that this is the key to solving the equation. Murph rushes to NASA and successfully initiates Plan A. Love then transcends the mere physical presence of the beloved and takes root in the spirit, in the most intimate part of the being. The physical presence or absence, and even life or death, become insignificant compared to the persistence of love. For Murph, the uncertainty about Cooper's survival was no longer relevant. She didn't need to know because her love for him was unalterable. In the end, just as the memories and legacies of those we have lost inspire us to improve and seek a meaningful purpose in our lives, Murph's unwavering love for her father became the force that drove her to solve the equation that saved humanity. In this way, the movie suggests that perhaps our own salvation, both in fiction and in reality, also lies in the power of love. In the Tesseract, Cooper realizes that the benevolent beings are actually humans from the future who have evolved beyond the four known dimensions. They used gravity to create the wormhole and save humanity, thus ensuring their own future. The Tesseract begins to collapse and Cooper returns through the wormhole. On the way, he takes Amelia's hand and we realize that he was the distortion we saw at the beginning of the journey. The benevolent beings ensure that Cooper can be found before he runs out of oxygen station, and Cooper wakes up in a hospital located at a place called Cooper Station near Saturn, named in honor of his daughter. Cooper's character could also represent an archetype of the Christ figure. Initially, 12 astronauts were sent on the so-called Lazarus missions, a name with clear biblical connotations, to explore 12 planets reminiscent of the 12 apostles of Jesus who spread his teachings. Among these astronauts, Dr. Mann betrayed Cooper in a way that reminds us of Judas and his infamous betrayal of Jesus. Later, Cooper sacrificed himself to save humanity, an act that echoes the crucifixion of Christ. Finally, Cooper's resurrection occurred when he was rescued and woke up at Cooper Station, which can be interpreted as a new life and hope for humanity. Thanks to Murph solving the equation, humans were finally able to leave Earth and now live in different habitats in space. Cooper tries to get up, but the doctor reminds him that he is 124 years old. When Cooper visits his daughter, he finds that Murph is 114 years old and in her final moments surrounded by her family. She is moved to see her father and tells him that she always knew he would return because he had promised her. Murph tells her father that no parent should see their child die, so she suggests he go look for Amelia. Amelia has just arrived on Edmund's planet due to how time works there and is alone, starting to set up a camp that will be humanity's new home. Cooper takes a spaceship and leaves in search of Amelia. To conclude, I'd like to revisit the poem by Dylan Thomas that Brand recited at the beginning of the mission to share my final thoughts. The lines that Brand recited were these: "Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. The wise men at their end, no dark is right. Because their words had forked no lightning they. Do not go gentle into that good night." The poem encourages us to face death with dignity and prompts reflection on how we live our time in the face of death's inevitability, a theme that is highly relevant in the context of Cooper's perilous mission and the critical situations he faced, but also in our own lives. The poem speaks of the wise who, at the end of their lives, accept that the darkness or death is natural and unavoidable. However, far from resigning themselves to this fate, the poem urges us to not go gentle into that good night, meaning to resist and fight against it. It inspires us to rage against the dying of the light. This repeated call to fury serves to energize the message and urges us to face every moment of life with passion and bravery right up to the last. Facing death reconnects us with what truly matters in life. It reminds us of something we often forget. Life is precious, and although we cannot escape the prison of time, each moment can and deserves to be fully lived right up to the final instant.